Welcome to the 6th episode in the Swiftly Spoken Eras recap series, a countdown to the Eras tour. Over the last 6 weeks, we've been recapping every single one of Taylor's eras leading to her next tour, the Eras tour, which at this point is now under a month away. We're making these videos to act as a mini crash course through Taylor's discography, but also to take a guess and have a discussion about which songs from each album we think might make an appearance on the Eras tour. In this episode, we're going to be speaking about Reputation, what can be deemed as Taylor's comeback album, made during one of the most troubling times of her career, but at the same time, and funnily enough, one of the happiest times when it came to her private life and the flourishing romance she found herself in.
2016 was an extremely difficult year for Taylor. After the success of 1989, its incredible world tour and her historic Grammy win, she suddenly found herself extremely overexposed. Though we won't be getting into every detail of this time, suffice it is to say that multiple events led to the summer which Taylor herself would deem as the apocalypse. The worst perhaps was the feud that she was unwillingly caught up in, and with cancel culture at its height, an edited phone call led her to be deemed as a snake and faced with endless criticism, mainly spread throughout social media. Taylor ultimately decided to pull away from online platforms and withdrew herself from the public eye for the better part of a year.
Over the following months, she hid away from being spotted. She began to write her 6th studio album, the last product she released through her original record label, Big Machine. It came about as Taylor had started to write think pieces, poems, and other content she used as a way for her to process what she was going through, almost like a defense mechanism that doubled as therapy sessions. She soon started to transform some of these pieces into music, which for Taylor had always been a way to understand her emotions and share what she had been going through with her fans.
The chronology of the Reputation era is one of the most interesting of Taylor's career, mostly because she had ended the trend of releasing albums every 2 years for the first time and created a much longer album cycle. After months away from the public eye, Taylor finally broke her silence on social media in one of the most talked about cultural resets in recent pop history. In the summer of 2017, Taylor completely blanked out all of her social media accounts, deleting everything that she had ever shared throughout her career, and then capitalized on the idea that the old Taylor was dead. The moment her pages went blank was truly a massive cultural impact. Many other artists now use the same tactic whenever they intend to reinvent themselves somehow. For Taylor, this not only signified her comeback, but was also a blank slate which she used to reclaim the narrative all through this one album. The musical world was watching. Fans were on the edge of their seats as Taylor completed her post of the snake striking and announced her upcoming single, Look What You Made Me Do.
With the odds stacked against her, Taylor released a steady stream of singles throughout late summer and autumn of 2017, culminating in the release of the entire album in November. No promotional interviews were done at that point, Taylor letting the music speak for itself and proclaiming that there would be no further explanation, they would only be Reputation. The Reputation era lasted from 2017 to early 2019, and in just over a year, Taylor was able to reclaim her reputation, establish healthy limits with what she shared from her personal life, completely destroy the power of being called a snake, profit from the hurtful things that had been claimed against her, and shake up the music industry once more.
Reputation is a complex album, and it's unlike any other Taylor Swift albums in terms of sound and even lyrics. It was written with two major themes in mind. On one hand, Taylor explored a more satirical persona that had a thirst for revenge and felt wronged by how she had been treated. This is a more metaphorical style, inspired by the characters of the Game of Thrones, and taking personal situations and amplifying them under a microscope and playing them out from an almost villainous perspective. Example songs from this side of the album include the lead single Look What You Made Me Do, I Did Something Bad, and This Is Why We Can't Have Nice Things. This side of Reputation is the one that is often misconstrued by the media and critics and being seen as a spiteful or petty album. However, every single song from the darker side of the album is completely connected to its other half. Much more Swiftian in nature, Reputation is an album that majorly explores Taylor's personal journey as she found a love that stood by her side throughout such a messy point in her public-facing career, and how she was able to create a healthier private life after falling in love, and in such a behind-the-scenes way. Because of that, Reputation is one of Taylor's most romantic albums, including songs such as Call It What You Want, Delicate, King of My Heart, and Gorgeous.
Though lyrically and thematically, Reputation includes this clashing dichotomy of songs, sonically it's almost as cohesive as its predecessor, 1989. Reputation's sound is much darker than anything Taylor had previously made, filled with electropop sounds, EDM rhythms, voice distortions, and leaving little room for quiet moments. However, as the album progresses, it ends with an almost stripped-back acoustic rendition of New Year's Day, really driving home the clash between Taylor's public, loud career and her tame private life, that she'd finally begun to cultivate and manage healthily.
Reputation's legacy is a decisive one for casual listeners or the general public, due to the context of the time of its release, and the only content from the album they may have consumed being the extremely baity Look What You Made Me Do. Rep is many times misinterpreted as being full of drama or spiteful, and though Taylor does address key issues as we've discussed, Reputation's core message is much deeper than that. For fans, Reputation is a much beloved album. It exhibits a lot of vulnerability from Taylor and includes some of the most open declarations that Taylor would now never dare to share on Instagram or a live interview, but instead includes impersonal lyrics that need no clickbait articles written about them to have worth. Reputation was the start of extremely personal confessions in Taylor's lyrics that she could feel comfortable sharing while never having to discuss or explain separate from her art.
Reputation, until very recently with Midnights, was the last album ever in the USA to sell over 1 million physical copies in its debut week, proving that everyone was still eagerly listening to what Taylor had to say. And though it's sad that Reputation was somewhat snubbed after its release by critics, especially due to it being so connected to feuds and drama, this feat, along with the popularity of the Reputation Stadium tour, proved that fans had stuck with Taylor throughout the last year and allowed her to make her return to the public eye on her own terms.
The Reputation Stadium tour really transformed the era into something much bigger than it already was, and it allowed many skeptics to understand what the music from Taylor's sixth studio album was really about. It also provided fans with a way to connect with Taylor once more, after having no contact from her from such a long time, and for Taylor it must have been really cathartic to say her piece, return to form, and see that many of us had stuck by her side throughout the petty and manipulative drama.
The tour, as we've mentioned over the last 5 episodes of this series, was Taylor's last major headlining tour up until now, and that's why we've been using it to compare to what we may see in the Eras Tour setlist. A general setlist for the Rep Tour included songs like Ready For It, I Did Something Bad, Gorgeous, a mashup between Style, Love Story and You Belong With Me, Look What You Made Me Do, Endgame, King of My Heart, Delicate, Shake It Off, Dancing With Our Hands Tied, All Too Well, Blank Space, Dress, Bad Blood and Should Have Said No, mashed up, Don't Blame Me, another mashup of Long Live and New Year's Day, Getaway Car, Call It What You Want, and finally a mashup of We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, and This Is Why We Can't Have Nice Things. However, Taylor did switch out All Too Well for a surprise song segment in which she acoustically played different songs, which we've mentioned in our previous episodes. And with that in mind, the tour did include every single Reputation album song, except for So It Goes, which she then did eventually also sing acoustically, switching it out and around with Dancing With Our Hands Tied. So that means that every single song from Reputation has been at some point played live.
As for the song stats, most of Rep has been performed an equal amount of time, though the singles obviously like Look What You Made Me Do, Ready For It and Delicate have naturally been performed slightly more often. The last thing to say about the Rep performances is the lack of them appearing in the following era. During Lover, only Delicate was performed, so this could be a bad sign for Reputation possibly looking forward. So then looking at the Reputation Stadium tour, the stats obviously in terms of which songs from that era were most performed, unsurprisingly the singles, and then the lack of Reputation songs in the following era, which is quite a surprise considering it's literally the era straight after. What are you feeling is most likely for the Eras Tour then, Lisa?
Yeah, it's not looking good, honestly, in my opinion. As we've said and as we've discussed over these few episodes, Reputation was the last full tour that we got. So I don't think we was ever going to see like a major inclusion of a lot of Reputation songs, even for Lover era. Well, that much is clear, right? But yeah, I don't know. I feel like Taylor has a bit of a strange relationship with the album itself. Obviously, it's a very specific album from a very specific emotion and a very specific time, so that is also maybe hard for her to tackle. But yeah, I really do think Reputation is going to be a bit snubbed on the Eras Tour. I do think so.
I do feel like that. I do think that. I definitely agree with you. I think weirdly, even though as we've kind of mentioned across our episodes, that Reputation, Lover, Elements of Folklore, Evermore, and obviously now Midnights tell one story. Weirdly, in a way, Lover almost rewrites Reputation in a strange way of like, it's almost like you can't imagine Lover Taylor performing Reputation. You know what I mean?
It's strange, isn't it? I could
imagine
never.
Lover Taylor being like,
Look what you made me do.
Not singing me, but I mean like me Taylor or Lover Taylor singing Look What You Made Me Do, or like...
It's so strange, because they're so close to each other in time.
Yeah, it's weird. I do think that the most drastic shift in eras is Reputation Lover. Like, there is no crossover in my head between those. You know, with like Debut, Fearless, Speak Now kind of slightly blend, and then Speak Now blends into Red in a way, and then Red does blend into 1989, there's a crossover.
Yeah.
With Reputation, there is a very clear end, and with Lover, there's a very clear beginning.
There is. Blend. That day she posted that Instagram picture of the palm trees, she basically said, goodbye, Reputation. We will never see each other. We're being a bit harsh. But yeah, I mean, honestly, we did get in very early 2019 an acoustic version of her singing King of My Heart on a guitar, which was absolutely lovely. And then throughout the Lover era, she did sing Delicate, like, I think it was like twice. Other than that, we've never really got much from Reputation. Understandably so, because like you said, and it purposefully, Lover is very, very different from Reputation for a reason. And then obviously after that, Folklore and Evermore feels so different to Reputation as well, just in sound-wise and production-wise. Midnights, however, does lend itself quite well to the sound of Reputation, but I don't know how much we're going to get, considering again that we did get every single song from this album on that tour. And they had their moments, and they had, you know, big moments. So honestly,
and it's got a Netflix special. So
this is it. Yeah.
If you want to hear those songs, listen to that.
Yeah. So honestly, I am feeling we will get Delicate, and that is about it. What about you?
Same here. I'm thinking Delicate, maybe another one, but
maybe something like Gorgeous. Maybe something like
Gorgeous, or maybe something like Ready for It. Mash.
Okay, well that's a big difference. Yeah,
it is a big difference, but it's not one of the like vengeful, like, you know, the songs that are deemed like vengeful and, you know, like, dark Taylor. It's not like I did something. I just can't see, and I did something bad. Look What You Made Me Do.
Oh, but I would. You know what I'd love, which is something we will be discussing in a future episode, mashups and things like that. But I'd love a little Reputation moment with Vigilante Shit, like a kind of tiny little mashup. For something.
100. That's
have to think about that before we speak about that. But yeah.
Oh yeah, 100. That's what I would love. I would love that, and I would love it. What would be so cool is if she did, like, what would be cool is like in the set list, say, you know, like she did in the Reputation Stadium tour, where she did old Taylor songs and then like went into Look What You Made Me Do, you know what I mean, where she like killed herself. I love something like that.
Style Love Story, You Belong With Me, Dead.
That was such a clever set listing. Like, that was so clever. The Reputation Stadium tour is just on another level.
It really is.
I guess then, I think maybe one of the reasons why Rep lacked during the Lover era was because realistically we only really got most of the Lover performances are acoustic.
Yeah, there's
that we really get a
couple. Prime Day, Amazon Prime Day. had a bit more production to it.
They were very much like promotional Lover type. You know,
definitely. Definitely.
We had like 3-4 songs, and
I guess
she was like focusing on Lover stuff.
Yeah, I guess we'd have to think really on what she could have included in Loverfest. But again, I don't see her suddenly singing "Look what you made me do" and then going into "You need to calm down." You know, so
no, 100 exactly. That's 100%. That's I totally agree with you. I think it's like because the Lover era was kind of cut short. Lots of the performances were either Lover promotional stuff or acoustic. Reputation doesn't really fit into either of those things really. And I feel like it would have made an appearance on the Loverfest, but again, I think quite limited. I generally see like on the Loverfest probably Delicate and one other thing probably.
And whenever we're speaking about this other thing, it's going to be like one of the romantic-y, King of My Heart maybe.
It'll be King of My Heart or Gorgeous or
Call It What You Want, New Year's Day, one of those.
Yeah, 100%. So I know this is really bad, and I don't really want to say it, but I feel like the only song that I would it's basically confirmed. I'm sure. Taylor literally confirmed it in a TikTok comment when someone mentioned about the 1, 2, 3, let's go. And Taylor was basically saying that it's going to happen on tour, and she wants it to happen on tour. So I think Delicate is basically confirmed. Anyway.
Right.
But that's all I see.
Right.
I just can't think of anything, which is really bad. Like, I feel bad.
I know. I feel
Reputation
terrible for Reputation.
It's being snubbed. But
it is.
Also, part of me wouldn't. I know this is bad to say, but part of me almost wouldn't be too worried anyway.
But that's because we've seen it. Yeah, exactly. We've seen it, we've heard them, we've been that lucky to literally get the whole album. And, from this episode onwards, we're going to talk about 3, and if we include Midnight's, 4 albums that we haven't had anything from, basically, or very, very little content. Yeah. So I can see what you mean, and I can get what you mean. And I think that's a very realistic point of view, honestly. You guys will have to tell us what you think, but that's us being objective. Now, before we round up, a bit subjectively, are there any songs that you really would want to see, like from Reputation? Just like, indulge yourself, you know what I mean?
Getaway Car, just because I love the song. Like,
right,
it's one of my favourite Taylor songs.
That's not unrealistic.
To be fair, it's not really. But yeah, I think also... Again, with surprise songs, I feel like Reputation would be... Some of them will be quite hard to even be in a surprise way.
I'd love a stripped back version of some of them, though. I'd love a stripped back version of I don't know, like... The stripped back version that she did of King of My Heart, it was just amazing. Like, Call It What You Want would be really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. We need to speak about one other song, though. Don't Blame Me, because Don't Blame Me has had a lot of movement and a lot of popularity over the last year.
I can see that,
You know what?
See that actually?
That? Yeah. Are we going to go for Delicate and Don't Blame Me?
And that would work as like because lots of people are saying that they want fan songs as well. That would be like a deep. You know how we mentioned before about like it being a deep cut without it being a deep cut. That is almost like it. Don't Blame Me is like a deep cut in a way that's not a deep cut, but fans would be really happy to hear, but also the general public will probably be like, yeah, I know that song. Yeah,
because of TikTok and its popularity on there. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I'm feeling actually pretty good about that one now. We've spoken about that. We'd forgotten. But...
I'm glad you mentioned that. Because I think maybe we're being blindsided by the lack of Reputation during the Lover era.
Oh my god, you know what I've just thought of? Don't Blame Me mashed up with False God. Both very like religious, metaphorical. Maybe. Something I don't know.
Could have, should have.
Oh my god, that's a bit a bit again, religious metaphors, definitely, but different perspective perhaps.
False God.
The whiplash.
Give me back my girlhood.
The altar is my hips to give me back my girlhood. Pipeline, I don't know about that, but yeah, I get what you mean. But yeah, definitely want to think of
100%, because and then because obviously we've mentioned a lot about mashups, which we'll get into in a later episode. But do you think there's anything other than obviously that mention? Is there anything else? And obviously we've mentioned kind of with vigilante shit that we're wanting something to be mashed. Do you think there's anything else in Reputation that could?
I think that's about it for Reputation.
It's such a distinctive sound. That whole album. Yeah,
like we said, it's unlike anything else in topic. Well, I guess she has gone over the topics, but not in that same with not in that same perspective, not from that point of view. Like, it's a very specific album, very conceptual nature of an album as well, and a very different sound as well, definitely. So no, I'm kind of, that's what I'm feeling right now. Subjectively, I would like to add King of My Heart, best song on Reputation, subjectively.
I would love to as well, because King of My Heart on.
Oh, it went off.
Was such a moment, like
the drums, the
drums, the production, the outro was just like
so
top
good.
Tier. Like, that's the thing with this is what's so exciting with tour coming up, is that tour versions of songs are just elite. You know what I mean? Like,
they really are.
I Did Something Bad tour version, King of My Heart. Even then, when you think of 1989, like We're Never Ever Getting Back Together, the way
Blank Space, even
Blank
that,
Space,
you know what I mean?
Sydney. And even things like I Knew You Were Trouble on 1989 tour, and like there's just something about like Taylor or Out of the Woods 1989 tour.
Oh, so good.
They are just like elite. So
they really are
so
very exciting to see what she does with all of these hits.
Or with like Holy Ground on the Red tour with like the drums.
Yeah.
Which is just so like unholy ground ever. Like it's just like, what? This is so sick.
That's the thing with Taylor. She takes her songs and she really reinvents them to make sense in the tour. So I guess maybe we're snubbing Reputation ourselves, but Taylor might find a way to work it in there, mash it up with some crazy different song that you would never imagine. Yeah. And I don't know, like, look what you made me do with something. Problems. Yeah. I don't know, but I think those are the realistic guesses, even though we're being a bit harsh. I do think they're the most realistic.
I think Delicate 100%, but now that you've mentioned Don't Blame Me, I would bet on it. I wouldn't bet a lot of money, but I still would bet on it.
With that, these are our most realistic guesses as of now. Let us know what you think in the comments, as you always do. We find it very, very interesting to compare and contrast what you guys think, what we think, and then eventually we will be commenting whenever we get the Eras Tour on what we got right and what we got wrong. For now, if you want to see any more from us, then go follow us over on Instagram. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe here on YouTube. And we will see you next week for our 7th episode in this series, all about Lover.